Hello, my name is Peter Parfitt. Welcome to the new Brit workshop. You'll have seen the video I made about the new Kapex Mitre station, which you see here. But we didn't do anything about some form of adjustable fence so that you could do repeat cuts or indeed cuts of a certain length accurately. So in the past I've been used to having a sort of homemade fence, and I've managed for years like that. But now I think it's time to find something a little bit better. Now this is the Incra Telescopic Flip Fence. Now ordinarily it's designed to go with a mitre gauge and a table saw. If you imagine this were a table saw with a saw blade here, and then this was attached to my mitre gauge, you would then feed your piece of wood past the saw blade using this stop here. But it lends itself equally as well to the mitre station. You've got additional scales here so that you can then get the longer cuts that you need. Now this was delivered with imperial scales on it, and I've now got the metric scales. The way that you adjust the fence to the position you want is loosen a pair of screws which are at the back here. You can see those two little thumb screws there. Move the stop to where you want it to be, and then tighten up those two thumb screws. And then that is held firmly in place. And it's held firmly in place because you can see these black pieces of plastic here, and on the inside of the stop, if I remove it, you'll see another one of those black pieces of plastic. And on the face of these bits of plastic is a pattern of indentations, and these mesh together. So when one is on here and one is on there, they can mesh together and they lock in place. And it's a little bit like a digital system because they will only move one whole or several whole units along at a time. You can never be halfway in between. It's either locked in or not. And the metric ones, which are the red ones, are similar. With the imperial ones, you get an accuracy to, I believe it's to 1/32 of an inch. And with the metric ones, it's an accuracy of 1 millimetre. And for me, that is absolutely brilliant because when you're trying to read off a scale and you want it to be absolutely spot on a millimetric size, then knowing that you can't be 1.1 or 1.3 or whatever it is, you know you're always on the millimetre, is perfect. And that's why I like this system. And it's my understanding that Incra have developed this themselves, and it's unique in the marketplace. Now, when you receive this kit, the first thing you need to do if you're a metric user, as I am, is to replace the black imperial interlocking blocks with the red metric ones. You need to cut 3 of them, 2 which will be here on the flip fence itself, and also 1 on the stop. Now we have to make sure that all of these new pieces that we've added are set up such that they are correctly in sync with each other, because when the stop is placed along there, it has to mesh not only with one on the left, but possibly as well interlocking with the one that's to the right. Now the first thing to do is to fix the block to the flip stop. There are the screws there and there. Now in order to get these in sync with each other, what I did was I made sure that the end one was lined up here, and then I screwed it in place tight. I then used one of the spares to then get it inserted in the grooves of this one and then meshed with the grooves of this one, and when that's done you can then tighten up there and then move on to the next one until you work all the way to the very end, including this piece which is on the movable part of the fence. Now the next thing we're going to do is to fix the fence in place, and to help us do this you can get hold of these brackets or you can make up your own, and these are the Incra ones, and they're really nice and substantial. I suggest you get these, and these fit at the back of the fence. Now I've already fitted mine, but the process is very simple. You need a straight edge and get this lined up with the front face of your mitre saw. Once that's done, clamp that in place. When that's held firmly in place, you can then position the brackets at the back, and the brackets need to be screwed on tightly onto the fence before you locate these holes and put these screws in. Now, I do suggest with this end piece, which fits on the telescopic rail, that you get it flush here and then screw these screws in nice and tight and don't touch them again. Now, as part of the kit, Incra supply these imperial grub screw arrangements, and that's what they use for holding everything in place. For this one, which is used to tighten and loosen the position of the telescopic part of the fence, I want something quick and easy. I don't want to have to grab a tool to do this, so therefore I want to have a Bristol fitting. Now, my problem is, of course, I live in a country where just about everything is metric, and certainly everything I've got is metric, and so I needed to make up my own arrangement there. It's fairly easy to do. All you need to do is to have either a threaded portion which is elongated like the ones they supply, or a large washer which is elongated, and then have a nut on the other side of it. So my brackets are now fixed in place, and I've loosened off the screws at the back so I can slide the fence to and fro. And the reason I want to do that is I want to make sure with this particular saw, the Kapex, which has adjustable rear sacrificial pieces here, I want to make sure that I've got the room to move these to the appropriate position when I've got the saw all the way over at its maximum angle of cut, which in this case is 60 degrees. Now I want to make sure that I've got clearance here for the saw blade past the sacrificial fence. And that's done. And move it to the end position, and then make sure there is sufficient clearance here so that it doesn't interfere with anything that's movable on your saw. Now I want to have a distance of exactly 300 millimeters from the end position here to the saw blade when the flip stop is in the end position. Now that was a little bit tight for me because of this piece moving so close here, and so what I've done is I've reversed this long bolt that goes through the flip stop. It was as delivered that way round, but by reversing it and making sure I've got all the washers in the right place, I've gained an extra 5 millimeters, and so that's given me the clearance I need. Now, when I built this Mitre station, I created these folding flaps so that it would be more compact. But having a fence like this fixed here now stops this flap from folding. I did experiment with the idea of just undoing the screws here and leaving it attached on the flap and letting it drop. Unfortunately, the way that it drops, the underside of the fence catches on this surface here. So the only way that we can fold this flat now is by just loosening these screws and then moving this out, and I would suggest at this stage one then tightened these screws. You then lower the flap, and you'll notice that this now is reasonably well out of the way. In order to ensure that when one's returning the fence back into its operating position, it goes in the right place, I've added this little feature here. And basically it consists of a little plate with a corner cut at 45 degrees, 2 holes in it for a pair of these cap screws, and I've then fixed that on there, and so when you push this back in, it acts as a stop, and then you can then tighten up the fence and it's back in its correct position. Now, having thought about it long and hard, I'm going to have my scales such that when the stop is in the left-hand position here, it says 30 centimeters. And that's then the true distance between this side of the stop and the saw blade. And for those distances which are going to be less than 30 centimeters, I will use a gadget like this one, and it will be exactly 30 centimeters long, and I'll just have to make sure that I take 30 away from the scale reading here when I'm using this. So I'm going to start by using a piece of the scale which goes from 0 all the way up to just over 41 centimetres. And I need mine to start at 30. So I'm going to cut it at the 30 centimetre point. So that little short piece starts at 30, and that will be the piece that goes in at this end. I've now found the piece that starts at 40, and this will be the next one in the sequence, and that will be slid over the top of the other one eventually. Now I now need a piece for this very end, and I've got the 82 window here, which you can see, and if I lay that over exactly over the 82, I can see that this should be cut at the 88.4 centimetre mark. This has to slide over the top there. One can encourage it to pass over the top of the other one. There it goes. And now all I've got to do is line up the 82 over the end. One can now just take part of the piece that was cut from the end there and put it in. And I'm just going to put that in straight away. That should butt up against the other piece. And then all I've got to do is to cut this off. And the next thing we need to do now is to put in the scales here. Now these scales are going to go in the opposite direction, and as that moves, so the stop is getting further away, so the numbers here will be increasing. Now these scales stop at about 123, I think it is, and so when you're trying to go out to what should be over 140 centimetres, one has a slight problem. There's the 1 metre mark, the 100 centimetre mark, and what I'm going to do is get some of the scales which start at 0 again, and I'll just have that starting its numbering from 0, and that allows me to easily go up to 140 centimetres. So that's my strategy. I'm going to make that work now. I've now put my special extension piece on, which I want to be exactly 30 centimetres in length. At the moment it's a little bit longer than that, and I'm going to use the saw to cut it, and in turn that will calibrate it. Because I've got this set on the 30 centimetre mark here, and it's clamped in position, and this is fixed as it should be up against the face there, and so I'm going to do a cut which will now cut this to exactly 30 centimetres. So that is now calibrated, and we can now do some checks on here. So I've now set this on the 45 mark, which means take away 30, so it would mean a 15 centimetre cut, and let's check it out. And that is absolutely spot on. And I've just set this on 1 metre 20. That is absolutely spot on 1 metre 20. So there you have it. I hope I've demonstrated just how easy it is to set up the telescopic flip fence for use with the Mitre station. It's something which isn't actually covered especially well in the instructions, but you can use your imagination to get yourself through here with no problem at all. If you're a metric user, remember to get the metric scales and the metric divider set. Also, if you're a metric user, don't be disappointed by the fact that all of the socket screws and so on are imperial, and so you're going to have to dig out your old imperial Allen keys and all the rest of it. But you'll manage, don't worry. And also for the Mitre station, I really do recommend these Mitre supports, which you can also get at the same time. Now this is a brilliant system, and I'm really pleased I've got it. I'm cutting things exactly to the millimetre, which is what I need to do with my Mitre saw, and you can do the same. It's an excellent system, I recommend it. Thank you very much for watching, take care, goodbye.